Before we continue, imagine discovering that the evil spirit terrorizing your village was never the real monster. Imagine learning that the true horror was buried, waiting, and it just woke up. The ground didn't just crack, it tore open. And what came out was older than the pact, older than Olumide, older than Zimora itself. The red explosion blinded everyone. Villagers fell backward. Torches extinguished instantly. The chief dropped the ceremonial blade. The cursed tree screamed, not in sound, but in vibration. The earth beneath Amani's feet split wide open, roots snapping like bones. And then, a hand emerged. Not human, not spirit, not smoke. It was made of stone and ash, covered in ancient carvings that glowed faintly blue, not red. The air turned heavy. Even Olumide recoiled. For the first time, the sorcerer looked afraid. Impossible, he whispered.
He had no idea what was coming that night. The village of Zimora looked peaceful, almost ordinary under the fading orange light of the sunset. Smoke drifted lazily from cooking fires. The laughter of children echoed faintly across the huts, and goats wandered near the fences. Yet something felt off. Shadows stretched longer than usual. The wind carried a chill that made the villagers pull their shawls tighter. Mothers whispered to their children to stay inside, and fathers hurried to lock the doors. In the middle of the village, a small boy named Amani stood frozen, staring toward the dark forest where the cursed tree waited silently. His heart beat faster, not from fear, but from curiosity. That tree, it had been there his entire life, but tonight it seemed alive, as if it were calling to him. Amani was 12, small for his age, but sharp-minded and fearless in ways his friends could never understand. While other children hid in their huts, whispering about the curse of the tree, Amani's eyes were drawn to it. The tree's branches twisted high into the sky, silhouetted against the darkening horizon. Its bark was rough, blackened, and seemed almost wet in the fading light. Every villager had a story about what it demanded each full moon. A sacrifice, a scream, a shadow gone forever. Yet Amani felt an irresistible pull toward the forest. Something inside him whispered, "You must know the truth." He took a small step forward, and the air around him seemed to grow colder. The first tendrils of mist curled around his ankles. Long ago, his grandmother had told him stories about Olumide, the sorcerer who had cursed the tree centuries ago. "It is not just a tree," she had said, her eyes wide in the firelight. "It is a doorway to what lies beyond, and every full moon it hungers." The words chilled Amani even as a child. Villagers whispered that sacrifices were necessary to keep the forest calm, yet nobody knew what truly lay within the twisted bark. Some said shadowy figures moved at night, guarding the tree. Others whispered of past victims trapped in the roots, their spirits wandering, waiting for release. His grandmother's voice came back to him now, low and tremulous. "Do not go near the tree when the moon is full, Amani. It sees your heart, and it will test you." But Amani's curiosity burned brighter than his fear. Tonight, the full moon was high, brighter than he had ever seen. It poured silver light across the village and cast long, eerie shadows from the huts. And while the village cowered behind locked doors, Amani's mind raced. Was this night different? Was it his destiny to uncover the secret the elders had hidden for generations? The wind shifted suddenly, carrying with it a metallic scent, sharp, cold, almost like blood. The villagers inside hurried to seal their homes, bolting doors and shuttering windows, but Amani remained outside, his gaze fixed on the gnarled, towering tree. The moon's glow reflected faintly on the blackened bark, revealing deep grooves that seemed to move subtly, as though breathing. Mist crawled along the ground like creeping fingers. Every nerve in Amani's body screamed for him to turn back, but his feet remained rooted to the spot. He felt watched. A scream tore through the village. It was short, sharp, and filled with terror. Mothers clutched their children, fathers grabbed sticks and torches, but the sound had come near the cursed tree. A child had vanished. Panic swept the village. Doors slammed, dogs barked frantically, and the night seemed to grow darker than before. Amani's heart raced. The scream had not frightened him. It had ignited something inside him, a need to see the truth, to know what lurked in the shadows of the cursed tree. He moved quietly, almost gliding over the soft earth, torch in hand. The forest edge seemed alive, the shadows stretching and contracting like the breaths of unseen creatures. The twisted branches of the tree clawed at the sky, the bark blackened, yet faint veins glowed red, as if the tree pulsed with a dark energy. Every step closer brought a mixture of fear and exhilaration. He could hear whispers in the wind, low, unintelligible murmurs that seemed to rise and fall with each gust. The moment he crossed into the forest proper, the temperature dropped sharply. His breath formed clouds in the cold air. The earth beneath him felt damp and strangely soft, almost alive. The whispers grew louder, circling around him, sending shivers down his spine. And then he noticed it, a faint red glow beneath the roots of the tree, pulsing like a heartbeat. It was almost alive, calling him closer. Closer now, Amani's torch illuminated strange carvings etched into the bark. They glowed faintly red, winding patterns that seemed to tell a story in a language he could not understand. The shapes twisted unnaturally, almost like they were alive. The whispers became clearer, almost intelligible. Leave or face the curse. But Amani ignored them. He wanted answers. He had to know what the tree was, why it demanded sacrifices, and who Olumide truly was. Suddenly, the branches above moved as though pushed by invisible hands. They arched downward, scraping the air, almost like reaching for him. The shadows between them shifted and coalesced into shapes, humanoid, fleeting, ghostly. Amani's pulse pounded. His mind screamed to turn back, yet his feet moved forward. He realized he had stepped into a place where the living and the dead brushed shoulders, and the cursed tree was at the center of it all. He remembered the grandmother's stories once again, how the village had hidden the truth, how sacrifices had been made, and how some had disappeared forever. Perhaps it had always been this way. Perhaps the tree had been waiting for someone brave enough or foolish enough to uncover its secret. He forced himself to breathe slowly, to calm the rising panic. Yet curiosity was stronger than fear, and he took another step toward the hollow beneath the tree. A sudden movement caught his eye, a shadow flickering across the forest floor, moving unnaturally fast. It was gone as quickly as it appeared. Something or someone was watching him. Every instinct screamed danger. He paused, listening to the whispers, the rustle of leaves, the distant cries of villagers. The forest seemed aware of him now, assessing him, weighing his courage against the hunger of the cursed tree. A gust of wind blew, and the whispers became louder, more insistent. They swirled around him, faint blowing lights appearing in the mist like guiding spirits or warnings. "Leave, leave," the voices repeated. Yet Amani pressed on, driven by a strange mixture of fear and determination. He wanted to see the truth, no matter the cost. He reached a clearing where the massive roots of the tree formed a hollow, glowing faintly red. It pulsed like a heart, calling him closer. Mist curled from it, and he could feel a vibration in the earth. The whispers became voices, faint, fragmented, almost human. They told stories of past sacrifices, of souls trapped, of villagers hiding secrets. Amani stepped closer, heart racing, torch shaking in his hand. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the shadows, tall, cloaked, with eyes that glowed like embers. It moved silently, a guardian or perhaps a remnant of the curse itself. Amani froze, unsure if he should run or confront it. Every instinct screamed danger, but he could not turn back now. He had come too far. The figure did not move aggressively, yet the presence was overwhelming. Amani felt the weight of generations watching him, past victims who had vanished under the full moon. His heart pounded. He took a careful step forward, every muscle tense, every nerve alert. The air smelled of earth and blood and something ancient, something that had waited centuries for him to arrive. From the glowing roots, faint figures began to emerge, spirits of the past swirling around him, ethereal, their faces sorrowful, their hands reaching out. Some seemed to plead, some warned secrets only Amani could hear. He understood that this tree was more than a curse. It was alive, feeding on fear and the unfulfilled promises of the villagers. Taking a deep breath, Amani extended his hand toward the bark of the cursed tree. Red veins glowed brighter, pulsing like a heartbeat. The whispers intensified, circling him, echoing through the forest. Every instinct screamed to pull back, but he did not. He touched the tree. It shivered, groaned, and for a moment the forest fell silent. Then, a faint voice, almost human, whispered, "At last, someone brave enough." The forest seemed to hold its breath. Shadows twisted, the mist thickened, and Amani realized he had crossed a threshold. Whatever awaited him inside the tree was beyond anything he had imagined. And in the village, the wind carried a new scream. Someone else had vanished. The curse had awakened fully, and Amani's journey had only just begun. The moon shone brightly above, casting silver light across the village and the cursed tree. Amani stood frozen, torch in hand, staring at the glowing roots. His heart raced, his mind whirled. He had uncovered the edge of the secret, but the full truth awaited him in the darkness. And with that, the night swallowed him, leaving only whispers and the cursed tree, patient and hungry.
The moment Amani's hand touched the cursed tree, the world changed. The red veins beneath the bark pulsed violently, spreading outward like lightning trapped inside wood. The forest trembled. Leaves spiraled upward instead of falling. The wind stopped. Complete silence. Then the ground beneath Amani cracked slightly, glowing from within. A deep voice echoed, not from above, not from around him, but from inside his mind. "You seek the truth, child of Zimora." Amani tried to pull his hand away. He couldn't. The tree held him. The bark split open slowly like a wound. From within, dark smoke poured out, twisting into a towering shape. A face formed in the mist. Ancient. Stern. Powerful. Eyes burning red like dying embers. "I am all you might." The sorcerer's voice vibrated through the air. Amani trembled, but he did not collapse. Instead, he asked the question no villager had ever dared to ask. "Why do you demand sacrifices?" The forest gasped. Olimide laughed. A slow, hollow laugh that echoed unnaturally. "I demand nothing. Your people feed me." Amani's heartbeat skipped. "What do you mean?" The spirit's form grew taller. "Centuries ago, your ancestors begged me for protection. They feared war. They feared famine. They feared death." Images flashed before Amani's eyes. A burning village. Hungry children. Desperate elders kneeling before a young Olimide. They offered blood in exchange for prosperity. Amani staggered backward. "That's not true. The elders said you cursed us." Olimide's voice darkened. "They lied to protect themselves." The mist thickened. Scenes unfolded in the air like moving shadows. Village leaders performing rituals. A chosen child. A silent agreement. Not a curse. A pact. Amani's stomach twisted. The sacrifices were not random. They were chosen. Suddenly Amani remembered the scream from earlier. The missing child. Olimai's glowing eyes narrowed. Tonight's offering still approaches. Amani's blood ran cold. No. The roots beneath him pulsed harder. He realized something horrifying. The villagers weren't victims. They were participants. Amani felt heat on his palm. He looked down. A glowing red symbol now burned into his skin, the same carving from the bark. He tried to wipe it off. It remained. Olimide whispered, "You are marked." Amani froze. "Why me?" The spirit moved closer. "Because you are different." The tree's hollow brightened. Amani saw visions. The next full moon. The villagers gathering secretly. Whispers. Fear. And then, his own face. Chosen. Amani stepped back violently. "No. That's not possible." Olimide's voice softened. "You touched the tree willingly. The pact requires balance." The ghostly figure swirling around him suddenly moved closer. They were not attacking. They were pleading. One spirit, barely visible, looked like a young girl. She whispered, "Break it, break the pact." Amani's fear shifted to anger. Olimide showed him everything. Hidden meetings. Offerings disguised as disappearances. Elders justifying it as necessary. The prosperity of Zimora was not luck. It was purchased with lives. Amani's eyes filled with tears. They sacrificed us to save themselves. Amani's voice steadied. "If you made the pact, can it be broken?" Olimai's form flickered. For the first time, uncertainty. Only if the marked one rejects it. Amani's palm burned brighter. But rejection demands courage. The forest trembled again. Torches appeared in the distance. Villagers were entering the forest. Searching. Or hunting. Amani realized something chilling. They weren't looking for the missing child. They were looking for him. Olimide whispered, "Stay with me and live forever in power." The spirit screamed warnings. The torches grew closer. Amani's mind raced. If he returned to the village, they might silence him. If he stayed, he might become part of the curse. Through the trees emerged the village chief and elders. Their expressions were not afraid. They were serious. Determined. The chief spoke. "Amani, step away from the tree." His voice wasn't protective. It was commanding. Amani held up his marked palm. "You lied to us." Gasps rippled through the group. The chief's eyes darkened. "You do not understand sacrifice." The red glow intensified. The pact was activating. The chief stepped forward. "Without the pact, we would have been destroyed centuries ago." Amani shouted. "Asterisk, and what about the children?" Silence. Even the forest listened. The symbol on Amani's palm flared violently. The tree's roots wrapped slightly around his feet. The pact was trying to claim him. The elders began chanting. The ritual had begun. The ghostly figures rose higher, swirling faster. They were no longer weak. They were furious. The forest roared. The balance was breaking. The sorcerer's form shifted. "I did not curse you," he admitted. "Your ancestors bound me here. I am prisoner as much as guardian." Amani realized something shocking. The tree was not pure evil. It was trapped. The chief raised the ceremonial blade. The pact must be honored. The elders surrounded Amani. The tree paused violently. The spirit screamed. Olimide whispered, "Reject them, and everything changes." Amani closed his eyes. The blade descended. And just before it touched him, he shouted, "I reject the pact." The forest exploded in blinding red light. The ground cracked. The sky darkened, and from beneath the roots, something ancient began to rise. Not Olimite. Something far worse, he whispered. The massive hand gripped the edge of the earth and pulled. The forest floor collapsed inward. And from beneath the roots rose a colossal being, its body fused with earth and bone, its eyes hollow pits of dark starlight. This was not a guardian. This was not a spirit. This was a devourer. A forgotten god. And it had been imprisoned beneath Olimite for centuries. Amani stood frozen. The mark on his palm stopped glowing red. It turned blue. The creature spoke, its voice like grinding mountains. You broke the seal. Olimite stepped forward, smoke swirling violently. I bound you there. The being laughed, a low tectonic rumble. You bound nothing. You were placed as a lock. Amani's breath caught. The cursed tree. The pact. The sacrifices. They want to feed Olimite. They were to keep something else asleep. The spirit swirling above screamed in realization. Olimite turned to Amani. They were never feeding me. They were feeding the prison. The chief fell to his knees. Now he understood. The ancestors had not lied out of greed. They lied out of terror. Centuries ago, something rose from beneath the land. Villages vanished overnight. Entire bloodlines swallowed. The ancestors begged for power to stop it. Olimite answered. But he could not destroy the being. Only contain it. The pact required life energy to reinforce the seal. A horrible balance. A cruel necessity. Amani staggered back. So the children. Olimite's voice broke. Were the price of survival. The devourer rose fully now, towering above the trees. Its presence made reality bend. Birds dropped from the sky mid-flight. The river nearby began flowing backward. You chose rebellion, it told Amani. Now you will choose extinction. The villagers trembled. The elders wept. The chief whispered, we did what we had to. Amani's heart shattered. The elders were wrong. But they were not monsters. They were desperate. And now, the seal was broken. Olimite turned to Amani. There is only one way to bind it again. Amani already knew. The marked one must replace the lock. The symbol on his palm burned blue now, brighter than before. If you merge with me, Olimite continued, we can become the new seal. Together. And if I refuse, then Zimora falls before sunrise. The devourer took a step forward. Mountains cracked in the distance. Amani looked at the villagers, at the spirits of sacrificed children, at the chief, at the blade on the ground. He understood something the ancestors never did. Fear had controlled every decision. Fear created the pact. Fear created the lies. Fear created the sacrifices. But fear would not create the future. Amani stepped forward. Not toward the elders. Not toward the devourer. Toward Olimite. The forest erupted into violent wind. Olimite smoke wrapped around Amani. Pain shot through his body. Memories flooded his mind, centuries of rituals. Centuries of deaths. Centuries of guarding. I will not repeat the pact, Amani said through gritted teeth. Then what will you do? Olimite asked. Amani's voice echoed differently now. Stronger. We end it. The blue light from his palm spread across his entire body. The devourer roared and lunged forward. Amani rose into the air. Half smoke. Half human. Eyes glowing brilliant blue. The spirits of the sacrificed children swarmed him, not in fear. In support. Their energy flowed into him. For the first time, the dead were not victims. They were power. The devourer swung its massive arm. Amani met it midair. The collision shattered trees. Shockwaves rippled across the land. Blue light versus dark void. The villagers shielded their eyes. Olimite's voice whispered inside Amani. You cannot destroy it. Watch me. Amani did not attack its body. He attacked its hunger. He opened himself to it. He let it consume him. The devourer swallowed him whole. Gasps filled the forest. The chief collapsed in despair. The blue light vanished. Darkness spread. For a moment, it seemed over. Then, the devourer froze. It began to glow from inside. Blue cracks spread across its stone body. Amani's voice echoed from within it. You fed on fear. Now feed on sacrifice. The spirits surged into the devourer. Not as victims. As chains. The being screamed. Its body hardened. Turned to stone. Collapsed inward. Shrinking. Shrinking. Until it became nothing more than a small, lifeless rock buried beneath the tree. Silence fell. The red veins in the bark disappeared. The cursed tree was no longer cursed. The forest exhaled. The mark on Amani's palm faded. Olimite's presence was gone. The spirits dissolved peacefully into light. The chief approached slowly. Amani. Amani fell from the sky. Unconscious. But alive. The forest was normal again. No red glow. No smoke. No whispers. The pact was broken. But not replaced. The seal was not renewed. The devourer was not imprisoned. It was ended. Weeks later, Zimora struggled. Crops failed briefly. The rains delayed. Fear returned. But this time, no child disappeared. No ritual occurred. The villagers faced hardship together. Without blood. Without lies. Without fear ruling them. The chief stepped down. Leadership became shared. Truth became law. And the cursed tree. It bloomed. White flowers for the first time in centuries. Amani would sometimes sit beneath it. Quiet. Changed. Stronger. He never spoke about what he saw inside the devourer. But sometimes at night, the wind would pause. And the leaves would spiral upward. Just slightly. As if something ancient still remembered. Tell me something. If you were Amani, would you have broken the pact? Or protected your village the old way? Comment below.